Greetings, race fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. JR Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer today, Ramiro Cisneros. And the star of today's show, as always, the fantastic Radical SR10, one of the purest sports car experiences on iRacing, propelled by a 450 horsepower four-cylinder turbo and a full 1,000 pounds lighter than an MX-5 Cup car. No track control, no ABS. The SR10 can be a handful, but mastering this car will make you better in every car that you drive. And folks, this is not a private or league event. We're showing you the top split of the iRacing public servers as we do every Friday, 2100 GMT. So if you'd like to try your hand at wheeling one of these SR10s, practice up, show up, and sign up. And if you make the top split, you will appear on RaceSpot TV as well as the iRacing official YouTube channel with some of the best Radical drivers in the world. And Ron, week 6 here marks the midway point of 2025 season 2. There are plenty of great tracks remaining on the schedule.
Oh, plenty of awesome racetracks to look forward to from this season, JR. Just looking through the likes of Phillip Island, Alton Park, Gilles Villeneuve up there in Montreal, VIR, Bathurst, and Interlagos, bringing this season to a close. A fantastic batch of races to look forward to between now and the start of June. This season has not disappointed up to this point. I have a feeling to round off the first half, we're in for a good one here at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. 2025 Season 2 brings us to Road Atlanta. And before we talk about the track, let's take a quick look at our season standings thus far. P1, Havard Gullikson, just a squeak ahead of Rafa Blanco and Heinz Braun there in P3, rounding out your podium after 5 weeks of competition. And we're not seeing somebody run away at the top like we sometimes do in this Radical Esports Cup. Andreas Friedrich in P4, followed by George Gonzaga, Kjetil Larson, Sauli Reitinen, Christopher Yanakis, Andre Castro, and Johnny Jolis round out your top 10. And it'll be interesting to see how those scores change today. Some of those scores may include points already scored here at Road Atlanta. The racing's been going on here all week, but yeah, here we are at Road Atlanta, located outside Brazelton, Georgia. The first race was a Can-Am event in the fall of 1970 with Vic Elford on the pole. Porsche fans will recognize that name. And over the past 55 years, Road Atlanta has played host to F5000, Campbell GT, Trans Am, and the SCCA runoffs, along with a busy slate of amateur track days. And of course, the 2025 main event will be the 10-hour Petit Le Mans this fall. Today's configuration, 2.5 miles, 4 clicks, 12 corners. Current track record 107.056, set all the way back in 2008 in a Peugeot P1 car. And just for your info, last year's Petit pole sitter in a LMDH car, about 2 seconds off of that. And I'll tell you what, Ron, Road Atlanta means a big draft, and it means epic battles coming down into the entry to turn 10. So what are you expecting out of these guys today?
Well, I think you just touched on perfectly there, JR, talking about the turn 10 chicane at the end of that 0.829 mile long, 1.3 kilometer long back straightaway. It is a behemoth in these draft heavy Radical SR10s. I've said this a lot throughout this season, and I will continue to say this for as long as I'm doing Radical shows here on iRacing. These cars are some of the most draft heavy cars on the iRacing platform. Really, in the top 3 as far as I'm concerned with the Formula V and the Spec Racer 4. These SR10s act like there's a vacuum cleaner on the back of them. They are so competitive in the draft. And JR, from our past experience covering Radical SR10s here on iRacing, we know that the races at Road Atlanta are always a good one. So really looking forward to round off the first half of this season in style.
Yeah, Road Atlanta, an absolute hoot. And qualifying already concluded there. We got Andre Castro next to Ryan Odo on the pole, and those are two super fast aliens here for our entertainment today. Row 2, Christopher Tavarin next to Guillaume Barron. James Barry, past champion, will be next to his teammate Andreas Friedrich in 5 and 6. And in the next row, it's Paki Caruso next to Christopher Yanakis. George Gonzaga will stay. Adrian Rostang next to Lasse Sorensen in P16. Don't usually see him all the way back there. And bringing up the rear, Daniel Mosteller in P17. And as we wait for him to grid up here, yeah, we really can't say enough about that long dash into the turn 10 complex, 10A and 10B up under the Fox Factory Bridge. We're going to see a lot of contested entries there, and it's very possible that the race can be won or lost on the last lap at that spot. And Ron, another kind of trouble spot for these radicals, that exit at turn 5. You want to go wide there to maximize your speed coming down the S's, but it is so bouncy there. And we have in the past seen problems, and I'm guessing that we're probably going to see some problems there today.
Yeah, I have a feeling that turn 5 is going to be tough around here, but we got the green already.
Yeah, green, and we are off. It is Castro from Tavarin. Gillum Barrett has moved up. Otto has dropped a couple positions there, got jumped on the start, and Castro is going to lead him up the hill. And that tough left-hander, turn 2 to get that set up into turn 3, so critical here. And this is one of the interesting parts of observing races here, Ron, at Road Atlanta, is how much curb are these radical drivers willing to take. You got to take a little bit to get through here quickly, but it has risk with it. As we see the cars streaming into that turn 5 exit, you see him banging over those bumps. The dampers on this fixed setup maybe not ideal for the bumpy surface there on the exit of turn 5, but so far so good. It is Castro from Tavarin, from Barron, from Friedrich, and I take that back. Caruso and Friedrich battling on that exit of turn 7. Critical corner on this course to get a good run out of there and get a good blast down the front straight, or down that back straight. And here we go, see what happens on our first trip into 10A.
And that's to the Inert Racing teammates going side by side, heading down to the turn 10 chicane. Look at that at the front of the field, though. Andre Castro having to withstand a challenge from the 5 car of Tavarin. He's going to lose out on a spot, so Castro remaining in the race lead. I think there may have been some drama involving Andres Friedrich. He's dropped all the way down to 7th. Not a good series of corners for him. He makes his way back up into P6 with a move on Christopher Yanakis at the front of the field. It is still intense, but going back to the point you raised there, JR, hitting the curbs in these SR10s, it is an act of balancing chainsaws on your finger. Make one wrong move, you're going to get that finger cut off. So really tough. Super important to try and get those curb whacks managed and get them down correct. But at the same time, if you get a little bit wrong, you are in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, and some great camera work here as we see the cars coming down the S's and into that turn 5 exit. You see a little wiggle there by one of those inert racers going off in the grass and kicking up. And Tavarin now sitting up in the lead. It's Tavarin from Barron, from Castro on lap 2. And folks, these laps are going to tick by very, very quickly. And sometimes we will see cars kind of hanging back. The draft is huge here, and you may not want to be sitting where Tavarin is in first place when it comes down to the last lap. And here is a move, and boy, oh boy, Barron passing Tavarin like Tavarin was pulling an anchor, and that just shows that draft going to work.
And Barron, this is the first time we've seen him in one of these 2100 GMT broadcasted races here on RaceSpot TV this season, but he is flexing his muscles early. Look at Tavarin looking for the outside line, hang down to turn number 1. That's going to be a bold move from the driver of the number 5 car if he can just hang on. Andre Castro got to pick up the pieces if these two drivers come to blows. This is a choke point, though. It looks like they're going to still go side by side through it. Tavarin with the stones in that 5 machine to still hold his own through the S's. It looks like Tavarin going to finally get that move done. Barron, understandably so, backing out of it.
Wow, that was nuts. And we have covered a lot of these together, Ron, you and I here at Road Atlanta. We've seen a lot of contested entries into turn 2, but to see that carry through all the way to that tough right-hander over the curb, turn 3 leading into the S's, that was epic car control and epic trust between these drivers who are very well familiar with each other. That's Tavarin from Barron, from Castro, from Caruso, from Ryan Odo. You see him on our bottom screen in P5 looking up at the action ahead, and he actually may be in the catbird seat right here. We know that Odo is one of our fastest drivers, as you see that draft sucking him up to the back of Caruso. Maybe a position change up ahead, just going under the Fox Factory Bridge. I thought I saw some exchange there between Castro and Tavarin, and Castro has moved up into P2, and man, action-packed as we were expecting, Ron.
Yeah, and touching back on the point that he raised, talking about the driver running in fifth at the moment, Ryan Odo in that number 17 car. The young American is an incredibly quick driver. He's pretty quick in the Radical Americas Championship, which you can catch JR out on track and me on the call for those races on Sundays here on RaceSpot TV. But he is still a very fast driver. Past couple of seasons, but Barry running in sixth spot at the present moment. We can't really discredit him in terms of getting involved in this battle for the win, because look at how close this field is from first all the way back down to Rafa Blanco running at your top 10. It is 4.5 seconds. You can see that endless train of SR10s heading down that back straightaway off into turn number 10 here in a couple of moments time. This field is vacuum sealed together. If any driver makes a mistake, they're going to drop down the running order, and if any driver gets a good run coming onto that back straightaway out of turn 7, they're going to shoot up the running order like they're shot at a cannon.
Yeah, too right, Ron. And the draft really does make these cars tend to train up, and it can kind of cover mistakes if the car in front of you gets a couple tenths on you in the twisties. If you're still within that draft range, which I'm going to call about 0.8 of a second coming onto that back straight, you're going to close up that gap to 0 by the time you get to turn 10. So the draft keeping these cars together, and is still Barron from Castro, from Tavarin, from Caruso, from Odo, and they're beginning to pull a little bit of a gap on the cars behind. And look at Tavarin applying pressure to Castro, and that is something that Castro is not used to. He's a 7K rated driver, and you don't see him getting a lot of pressure from behind. And there is Friedrich over rotating there. Oh my goodness, almost ending in disaster. That was turn 1, I think. Friedrich getting way sideways, manages to collect it, but that explains his drop down the timing tower, Ron.
And look at this, some side-by-side racing involving Castro and Tavarin hang down into the turn 10 chicane. Castro holding on to that inside line through into the braking zone. It looks like he's going to hold on to P2. And speaking of 2, that's the number 2 car that we saw of Andreas Friedrich, a multi-year veteran of these Radical SR10s. Shows you that this track is super tough to nail down in these SR10s. The fact that a veteran in the form of Andreas Friedrich can have a moment like that in these SR10s, there is such a razor-thin margin between acing your lap times and finding yourself nose deep into a tire barrier. There is such a fine line that these drivers have to ride, and that's what makes a really good SR10 driver here on iRacing. The ability to find that line and just hold yourself to it, holding on that rev limiter and matching that accelerator as long as you can, as we see a massive moment for Castro out of turn 5.
Oh my goodness. And you know, that may look like a moment, but that, if you're on the pointy end of this field in this top split, that is every lap. You have got to fight that car, wiggling and bouncing on that turn 5 exit as you're trying to put down the power. No incidents there so far, but my goodness, it is a handful to get those radicals out of that bumpy trap on the exit of turn 5. And up front again, it's Billum from Castro, from Tavarin, and here comes Tavarin, gonna take a peek inside of Castro and not quite able to get it done. But I gotta tell you, Ron, the classic move here in that 10A, 10B complex is the over-under right there. If somebody tries to cover the inside and compromise their exit out of that complex, you can get a run and make something happen as the following car. And I'm waiting to see that happen. I think it's pretty likely before this one's over.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff that we see between now and the checkered flag. That game of leapfrog all throughout this field going to continue on. I think the biggest gap that we have at the moment is between P16 and P17. That's Daniel Monseler in the number 15 car and Erden Rostang in the number 16. So that's a pretty big gap between those racers, a little bit farther towards the back. But outside them, the rest of the field still incredibly close as always. We have a battle involving Dennis Kiriak, Apollos Myron-Ianni, and Andreas Friedrich. Those are some of the inert teammates that were battling off into turn number 6 and 7 a few moments ago. The battle up in the front is still going to be intense. I will say the front 3 have moments, about a second between the racers in 4th and 5th.
Yeah, and these front 3 cars here, we might see him working, try to drive away, increase that gap back to Caruso. It's already a second, and once you get outside of that 1 second bubble, the draft is over, and they're going to drop Caruso like a bad habit. And more great camera work here as you see those SR10s kiss that inside curb on turn 3. That one is mandatory. Some of these other ones coming down the S's are optional, but you've got to bounce the radical over that inside curb there, and so tough, and really showing some excellent car control here and some acceptance of risk, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think these drivers in the SR10s, I mean, looking through the drivers that we have in this race, they have been around the block before in these SR10s. They know the risk, they know how these cars drive, and they know that they have to basically run within an inch of their lives, regardless of what kind of racetrack you're running at. Road Atlanta, it's a track that's part of basically every single season for the SR10s, side by side between Barron and Castro, heading down that back straightaway off into turn number 10. Castro always making that inside line work, my apologies, and he gets it done yet again, this time for the lead.
Wow, Castro, and like I said, it can be hazardous to try to cover the inside because it really messes up your entry to turn 10A, which you need to set up 10B, but Castro showing his expertise and making it work there. And on the bottom, we're showing you a nice little train that's formed up. That's Yanakis from Heinz Braun from Rafa Blanco. And I'll tell you what, Ron, if I was Yanakis with Braun behind me, I would be watching my rearview mirror. Braun, very aggressive in these SR10s. If he sees a sliver of daylight on the inside, he's sticking that SR10 in there, and we'll keep an eye on him and see what develops there. But I can't imagine that he's satisfied where he's sitting now.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see a driver like Heinz Braun go for some dives. He is a very fast driver in these SR10s, do not get me wrong. He also is a bit of an aggressive racer, if we are being completely honest. Very quick driver, has won in the past here in these SR10s, but he is known to definitely risk it for the biscuit or risk it for the Triscuit if he is feeling the low-calorie option. He's a quick driver in that 6 car, don't get me wrong, but he is always the center of attention just because he's the kind of driver who will take a race that's maybe one that's difficult to overtake on, and he'll just go for some outlandish dives, which is fantastic to see from our perspective in the commentary booth, but can be a little bit frustrating if you are one of the competitors out here on the racetrack. I think there may have been a moment for Dennis Kyriakopoulos. He's dropped down the running order, currently in P15, was in the top 12 not terribly long ago, but he's had some sort of moment over the past couple of moments. I think potentially running wide through turn number 1, may need to load up a replay to see what happened to the driver in the lucky number 13 car.
Yeah, and look at up front, Ron Castro starting to stretch that lead. He has lit the wick here. He's got 3/10 back to Barron, and if he can just add a couple ticks a lap and get out of drafting distance, this could turn into a track day for him, and he is capable of doing that. We've seen him drive away right now, though. Barron with a 0.3 gap, and look at our timing tower. Look at that gap drop as that slipstream goes to work, down to 1/10 now. Barron showed his nose last time. He's going for it this time. Barron, Castro leaves the inside open and lets him through. Could be some strategery going on there, Ron.
This race, there is only one word to describe your race, and that is screwed. Look at these drivers weaving all over that start-finish straightaway, and Tavara nearly going for a move on Castro. That could have ended in tears heading down that start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1. As much as these drivers definitely are eyeballing the best position to find themselves in when the white flag comes out, they can be in the catbird seat when that checkered comes out. They are still dicing so incredibly intensely. I gotta wonder if something's gonna break here soon, JR. Barron, he's been the patient driver in all of this. Castro, he's gone for some moves. Tavarin, though, that was very, very close, heading down that start finish straightaway between Castro and Tavarin. I wonder if you're a driver like James Berry, like Packy Caruso, even a driver like Ryan Odo, you can see those 3 cars running in the back of shot as they come out of turn number 7 onto this back straightaway. If these drivers at the front blow apart and come to blows, we're going to see those drivers right behind close right back in and get involved in this battle too, as Castro looking for the outside.
And speaking of Heinz Braun, he has had enough of driving behind Yanakis, and he is going to stick it inside of turn 10 and get that move done easily. It was only a matter of time before that was going to happen. So now that train battle for P7 is Braun from Yanakis from Rafa Blanco, and up front is still Barron from Castro from Tavarin, and more side-by-side action, and that is Tavarin getting past Andre Castro and dropping him to P3 on that super fast entry to turn 1. Folks, so thoroughly in these SR10s. If you're a GT3 driver like I am, or driver in some other cars where Turn 1 can be a nerve-wracking experience. It is pedal to the metal in these radicals, just a lift, brush on the brakes, get it turned in, and then punch it up that hill. It is an absolute blast. And you see Heinz Braun here leading that middle train of 7, 8, and 9. And up front, it's Barron from Tavarin from Castro. And in that front group, we're starting to see a lot of 114s. James Berry got a 114.8, Caruso with a 114.9. So these drivers are lighting the wick as that fuel burns off. We're lap 12 of 19 right now, getting down to the end, riding along with Blanco now. Oh, Blanco backed out of that one. You see our bottom screen there. He wanted to think about taking a look, but thought better of it. And up top, more fighting in the entry to turn 1. Castro. Did Castro get a twofer there?
I think he potentially might have. And all that battling, though, it's allowed all of the drivers at the front of the field to get vacuum sealed together side by side between Tavarin and Barron heading off into turn number 1. That's going to allow Tavarin to get that move done on Barron to slip his way up into second. Packy Caruso, Ryan Odo, and I will say, I think James Berry has had some sort of connection issue. He's dropping down the routing order. I'm not sure if that's a brief little technical issue there or what. I think James Berry may be out of it here. I was looking through, I was like, that front pack has actually lost out on some ground to that 3-car train right behind. Now 2-car train. Something has gone on with James Berry, not entirely sure. I don't believe it was an incident. I think he may have just had some catastrophic connection issues and dropped out of the session. James Berry getting struck by a really unfortunate falling anvil.
Yeah, that is a real bummer. The internet gods knocking Barry out of this one, and he's definitely disconnected. So that 6-car train up front is now 5. Castro from Tavarin from Barron. Castro will cover the inside here, and Tavarin turns. Tavarin is off and stationary. It's now Castro from Barron, from Caruso, from Odo. And this may be the kind of moment that Odo has been waiting for. He's been kind of hanging back and taking it easy there. As you see, my goodness, Tavarin come back onto the track. He's all the way down into P11, and he had a crack at the lead run, and that crack it turned into a break. It is over for him.
It's an easy mistake to make for sure in these SR10s, but a heartbreaking one nonetheless for Yard. 1-point leader who's now involved in a battle with Meyer and Ianni. That is Tavarin dropping down to P12 as it stands at the present moment. That is going to be a real kick in the shins for him. It's very quick driver, as we have seen in this race, but an unfortunate mistake. Was it a mistake, though? It wasn't. No, he got turned by Barron's. Contact being made hang down to the turn 10 chicane. Nothing that Tavarin could have done. Guillaume Barron getting a piece of that action.
Unfortunate. My goodness, Barron just overcooking that entry just a little bit. Again, no ABS on these cars, so it can be difficult to get them woed up. That is probably the hardest braking zone on the track, and Barron just misjudging that. And that 6-car train now broken down into 4. It's Castro from Barron, from Caruso, from Ryan Odo up front, and they've managed to put about a 2-second gap back to P5. That is the train of Yanakis, Braun, and Rafa Blanco. And that battle for P5 ongoing. Yanakis now covering the inside to turn 1. Braun taking a peek around the outside. And my gosh, the number of times that we've seen that side-by-side entry into turn 1 in this race has been fantastic. Great racing today from these guys at Road Atlanta.
And as we continue to see this race approach its final stages, I want to raise one thing talking about the drivers that we have at the front of the field. Andre Castro looking for his 3rd win thus far this season in these 2100 GMT Friday top split races. Won the opening round at the Nürburgring, won round number 2 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Did not grab the checkered flag at Suzuka or Mugello, but Andre Castro, very quick driver in these Radical SR10s. JR, you've got some experience commentating races that he is a part of, as I do as well. That number 1 car is a very quick driver, but as quick as he may be, I think he has some added pressure. Packy Caruso and Ryan Odo, that 2-car train, have caught up to the 2 cars right in front. It's now nothing between Barron and Caruso for P2 and P3.
Yeah, 2 right, Rhonda. And look at Castro, though. He's starting to stretch that out. Castro is able to get away on this lap. Again, that the sweet spot for the draft is about, I'm going to call it 0.8 or 0.9 on that back straight. And Castro lighting the wick here. He would like nothing better than to see that gap open up to about a second and this turn into an Andre Castro track day, as we've seen many times on our bottom screen. Back to that battle for P5. That is Yanakis from Brown from Blanca now. And yeah, Heinz Braun lost that position. So those two have switched spots a couple times. We'll see him set up here. Here they are coming out of turn 7. So critical. Get a good exit here. Or sorry, that was 6. Here they are on to turn 7. And Yanakis has got a little gap going there. See what Braun can make out of it. And meanwhile, battle for first up top. Castro weaving, trying to break that gap, and he's break the draft. He's got that gap up to 0.8. And now Odo taking a look inside, or no, that's Caruso looking at Odo. And Caruso sticks it past the youngster. Wow, good driving, great trust in car control, as we're accustomed to seeing in these Radical Esports Cup. Odo showing his nose now. Odo not going to lie down for that. Hip checking Caruso off into the grass, and Odo back up into P3. Wow, great stuff.
Oh, and Packy Caruso is not happy about that at all, but it was really all of his own doing. Caruso had a bit of a sideways snap coming out of the turn 10 chicane, goosed on the throttle a little bit too quick, and in the process of all that, got the back end out. That allowed Rhino in that number 17 car to get a monstrous run coming out of the chicane down the hill to start lap 17. Odo, ever the opportunist. He is a quick driver, as much as I talk about the Americas races that he's a part of here on RaceSpot TV. He's a quick driver, and he has matured ever since last season, where he was quick but had some unfortunate moments that took him out of championship contention. Ryan Odo, still that aggressive youngster, that driver that will go for those moves when the opportunity suits him. That was one of the slickest moves I've seen in my entire time covering Radical SR10s. Well done to Odo. Still not out of the woods yet, as Caruso gonna go for a move, get back at him, hang down into the turn 10 chicane, and it looks like Odo gotta try and fight back again.
Yeah, a little smooch there as Caruso moved over to cover the inside. Odo once again showing his nose on the inside of turn 12. And I thought he was going to go for it again. Oh my goodness, you don't see a lot of people stick it down there. But yeah, Caruso had that little snap. Odo with ice water in his veins sticks it down the inside of turn 12 and gets the pass done. But you saw the draft going to work on that back straight. The draft giveth, the draft taketh away. And it has giveth P3 to Packy Caruso, riding along with Odo, looking ahead at Caruso, and running out of time here, Ron. We're on lap 18 of 19, and this is going to be crunch time. What are these drivers going to decide to do on this penultimate lap?
Well, I know what one driver is going to do. For Barron in P2, he's going to look to try and grab his trusty flamethrower, because as much as that battle up at the front was rather intense, from the drop of the green flag all the way through to that moment that we saw for Christopher Tavarin when he spun out of that battle from P2, it's cooled off in terms of that pack. And as these two drivers battle for the final podium spot in the form of Odo and Caruso, with Odo getting the move done down to turn 10, that's allowed Castro and Barron to break away. They're going to be taking a white flag with about 3 to 4/10 of a second between those two racers. Barron has been playing the patient game as of recent. He's allowed Andre Castro to push that car, push his tires, and maybe get a bit more comfortable at the front. Barron, meanwhile, he's been right behind. He's been studying what that one car has been doing as of recent laps. And I think that 3 car is maybe going to go for it, hang down to the turn 10 chicane. So if you're Barron, you're picking up that flamethrower, you are de-thawing that battle, and you're reaching your hand in and trying to get a move done.
Yeah, absolutely. Barron showing some fantastic patience. It really looked like Castro was able to light the wick and extend that gap, maybe get out of drafting distance and drop Barron, but Barron has reeled him back in. It's 0.6 right now, and here we are coming out of turn 7 for the last time, the last dash down that long back straightaway. And keep an eye on that gap, folks, on our timing tower on the left side of your screen. Barron currently sitting 0.6 behind, and you're going to watch that gap plummet. Castro's going to weave a little bit to try to shake him, but probably not going to be able to. And there's our battle for third on the lower screen. Almost too much to talk about and too much to cover here. And here comes Caruso. He has Odo on the inside. Can Odo put the switch back on him? Here it comes. Odo sticking on the inside under the bridge. A little wiggle there, and Odo is going to spin. Oh my goodness, that's the move I was looking for. Caruso pushed him, kind of squeezed him into the abutment of the Fox Factory Bridge, and my goodness. And while I was looking at that, Castro comes across the line in P1. He's able to defend against Barron on that last lap, despite Barron putting in a huge effort to get that gap down and get in a position to make a move. Not able to do it, and Castro is going to win it, followed by Barron and Caruso. Holy cow. Ron, I was stoked to be back here calling these radical races. I was stoked to be here at Road Atlanta because these races are always fantastic, and it has absolutely lived up to all of my expectations. Whew. Gonna take a quick breath here, and here are your results. It is Andre Castro with the win, and I believe he qualified in P2, so he gains 1 to take the checker at the end. Barron in P2, Caruso will round out the podium. Then it's Yanakis from Braun, Blanco, Gonzaga, Sorensen, Friedrich, and Ryan Odo after that little misstep there all the way down into P10. Christopher Tavarin also was up front and ended up in P11. Denis Karakopoulos, followed by Iani, Daniel Mostetler, Miguel Fonseca, Adrian Rosting, and James Berry with the cruel disconnect. And shout out to James. He's probably watching this, and what a bummer that that happened to him. But, you know, the internet giveth and the internet taketh away. Holy cow, what a race. And look who we have here. I'm going to welcome to the commentary booth Andre Castro. And Andre, what an incredible race. I was really looking forward to being here to call this. I love those contested entries into P1, and you were involved in 4 or 5 of those as that front group went through turn 1 together. And so how did that race unfold from your seat?
Oh man, it was difficult. It's one of my favorite wins, I think, just because of how difficult it was. I knew I had to practice a bit more this week. There are cycles, there are times where I just get complacent, not really putting in that much effort, and the last couple of weeks was like that. So I think I qualified outside the top 10 both times. Had my first big wreck last week, and just pretty bad by my standards. So this week decided to put a little bit more practice, and especially because Road Atlanta is actually I got my first win here in real life in cars in Skip Barber, but I think on the sim it's been tough. It's so line sensitive that you have to be really perfect, and so I feel like I was a little better prepared coming in here because I didn't expect to be that quick. And then it was about managing the lead with those 2 guys behind me and at times in front of me, all of us changing positions, and it worked out in the end. I think lap 2 I scared myself and almost died on that big tall curb coming out of the S's, and after that I was just more cautious, especially in that corner, because it feels like a lottery. I mean, especially I guess on cold tires it's worse, but I just didn't trust it, so I was just giving up a bit of time there the whole race, not going as wide as maybe I could have. I'm just rewatching it right now. That was really close to being a wreck, but those guys raced really respectfully so, and I think I don't remember racing them before, so props to Christopher and Guillaume for racing clean, and I guess I got lucky. They got together there and made it a little bit easier to hold off Guillaume in the end. So, really fun. Glad to be back on top, and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, great stuff, Andre, and you definitely showed your whole repertoire there. It looked like you turned up the wick with about 3 or 4 laps left and got that gap up to about 0.8. Looked like you might drop Barron, but he managed to reel you back in and apply some pressure toward the end there. And good job hanging on. He was right there. You were able to cover the inside, and he wasn't able to do anything with that turn 10 A and B combo at the end. So you pulled off the victory. So very well done and well earned. And as we wrap up here today, is there anyone you would like to give thanks or shout out to?
Whole Underfunded Motorsports team, Chris Wetz in second split, and Colin Brown on the watching, I guess, and in the grandstands. And thanks to the whole Race Spot team and to you guys for broadcasting on the iRacing channel. It's really cool to be featured on there. And just another fun race of these cars. It's been a couple weeks since I had fun, and just had to put in a little bit more work to get the effort, but to get the reward. But thanks to you guys and to the team, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
And as are we, Andre, and with the kind of shows that you guys put on today, it is our pleasure to be here in the booth and calling those. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week at Phillip Island.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for that one. So, well, should be fun. Thanks.
All right, and Ron, I'm going to bring in for you one of our friends of the program and a leader in the Radical Esports community, our buddy George Gonzaga, and you can run through his race experience with him.
Yeah, George, welcome into the commentary booth. And I will be completely honest, George, I don't think we had the camera on you at all throughout that race with some of the drama that was going on up towards the front. So usually I would ask you about the race, but I'll just ask you, how was your race?
Yeah, well, it was kind of boring just watching the show unfolding in front of me, to be honest. And yeah, I just wanted to drop by to take this opportunity that you guys are reunited and just to say hi. And it's really great. You guys are back together, even though it's super early. But yeah, just wanted to give a big shout out to you guys. But the race was fine. It was cool. A lot of aggressiveness from other drivers, a few incidents. So I'm sure it will be entertaining to look back.
Yeah, I gotta say, it was a barn burner here at Road Atlanta. These cars around this track, it is always a hoot, doubly so hang down into the turn 10 chicane. I want to ask you about how it's like being in these races and how terrifying it is heading down that back straightaway.
Well, yeah, like it's a very heavy braking zone. There's a lot of opportunities for moves, and you really need to trust the person you're racing with, you're battling. You know, you're not always lucky to have guys you trust, and you need to expect the worst. So yeah, I think it's a case of knowing your opponents and managing that your expectations and picking your battles essentially.
Yeah, and it's a race that you have to manage. I think I said earlier on this broadcast how a race here in these SR10s at Road Atlanta is like juggling chainsaws. One wrong move, and you can end up in a lot of trouble. So I think nice to hear your perspective about how these races usually go. I remember doing an official race at Sebring about a year ago at this point. I remember how much of a draft fest that race was. But here you've got a mix of the drafting sections and some of the tighter, twistier bits that can certainly catch you racers out. But looking forward to the next round of the championship at Phillip Island. What are your thoughts heading into week 7?
Yeah, it's a fun track. It's very technical, very long corners, a lot of tire management. It is a Radical community favorite. That's why it's having a comeback as well. We really look forward to it. Yeah, it's a really fun track.
And really looking forward to it as well. I remember doing a broadcast there. I believe it was one season ago. I remember that race being an absolute barn burner. So fingers crossed we'll keep that momentum going here in season 2 of 2025. But George, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. And also thank you for the kind words about Mr. J.R. Gregory and I being reunited on these Radical shows. To all the viewers out there who haven't tuned into some of the past Radical action here on iRacing, J.R. and I used to do these broadcasts for many, many seasons. And happy that the gang is, albeit briefly, reunited here for this week. But George, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and I'll pass the mic off to you if there's any thanks or shouts that you want to give before we let you go.
Yeah, shout out to you guys. Obviously, it's really nice to see you guys back together. Big shout out to the team as well. I know it was not the best result, and James was a bit unlucky with that packet loss. But, you know, it is what it is. It's very competitive. A big shout out to them. They're doing a great job. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I will have to ask you in the week how James's conversation with his internet provider goes, because I can imagine that would be rather fiery. But George, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. Always good to have a chat with you, and well done, the P7.
Cool. See you guys. Bye-bye.
That right there was George Gonzaga, your P7 finisher at the end of this race. And JR, the center of attention himself, Mr. Ryan Odo, is joining us now in the commentary booth. I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, Ryan, and my goodness, what a fight. You were right there. You ran for a long time in P5. I knew that you were going to put yourself in position to take the win. Got into a huge fight with Packy Caruso, and a tip of the hat to you for stuffing it down the inside of turn 12 there as the race got hot toward the end. That was an epic move. Well, just tell us a little bit about how that race went.
It was just just basically a recovery race after a terrible start. I have a specific start routine that can gain me a couple tenths, but if I get it wrong, as you saw, I lose a bunch of time. And I got it wrong this time and fell through the pack, or fell back down through the pack, and was trying to get back through the pack, but Packy was very, very aggressive, and he wasn't letting me by. So I just decided to let him through and see if he could catch the guys in front, and he was, and then we started to fall back, and then there's a couple laps left of the race, and I realized, hey, yeah, we won't be able to catch the pack, so I started battling him hard, and then going through that final corner, that final attempt, he just ran me off the road. He didn't leave me any space, and I spun.
Yeah, and unfortunate for it to come to blows at the end. You guys were putting on a great show up until that point. But, yeah, always great to see you out here, Ryan. Your schedule doesn't always permit it. So thanks so much for joining us today. You really put on a fantastic show, and I hope you enjoy watching the replay today. But as we wrap up, is there anyone you'd like to thank and give a shout-out to?
I'd like to give a thank you to all the drivers for showing up and putting up a great fight, and I'd like to thank everyone for watching, you guys being in the commentating booth, always being amazing, and for my family for allowing me to do this.
All right, excellent, Ryan. Well, I hope that your schedule permits you to join us next week at Phillip Island. So until then, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us for today's broadcast of Week 6 of the 2025 Season 2 of the Radical Esports Cup. And if you like what you saw today, be sure to tune in to RaceSpot TV this Sunday back here at Road Atlanta for the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship. And then, of course, next Friday, 2100 GMT, for more Radical action at the fantastic Phillip Island Circuit in the land of Oz. I am J.R. Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, our producer, Ramiro Cisneros, and everyone here at RaceSpot TV, have a great Friday and an even better weekend.